Well, it always feels like football season. That music lets you know. Hi, everyone. Mike Tirico. Season 16 of Sunday Night Football. We now know the games because the NFL schedule came out earlier on this day. And let's take you through this exciting season that will start with, as usual, the Super Bowl champs and their banner night, Tampa Bay against Dallas. You look at the September slate, it includes a great one with the Chiefs and the Ravens and Mahomes and Jackson. On through the month of October on Sunday Night Football. Game of the year in the NFL, the Bucs and the Patriots, Brady's return to Foxboro, followed by a rematch of the AFC Championship game. Halloween in Minnesota. Then we steamroll into a 5-game November that includes the Chiefs and Raiders back in Vegas. What a great game that was. Oh, and the Bills and Saints on Thanksgiving. We had somebody to ask about the Saints playing on Thanksgiving in a minute. And to the month of December and January. Remember, it goes to week 18 this year because it is a bigger season. Each team plays 17 games. And our last 7 scheduled games are division games. So, Drew Brees, Cris Collinsworth, Al Michaels now know exactly what our plans are for the rest of the fall and the winter. Guys, it's great to see you. Great to be talking football on the schedule. And, Cris, I'm going to start with you and where we start, that opener with the Buccaneers and the Cowboys.
I think it's the best opener we've ever had. We all know what Tom Brady did a season ago, coming down, winning his 7th championship. But this is the Dallas Cowboys. And as far as watchability and interest, to have Dak Prescott come back, to see what this Dallas Cowboys defense is going to be, they were terrible a season ago. They draft Micah Parsons. Dan Quinn comes in as the defensive coordinator. But they are going to have their hands full because the Buccaneers return everybody. A list of receivers on both of these teams, a mile long. This is going to be, I think, the best opener we've ever had.
Al, reunion games are something special. And when we get to October, maybe the most special of them all with Tom Brady back in Foxboro visiting the Patriots.
Mike, I think this will be the most hyped game in years. We knew that Tampa Bay was going to New England. We knew they weren't going to put it in the early Sunday window. We thought maybe late Sunday, maybe Monday, but we got it, and we're thrilled to have it. It's going to be fantastic. And one of the great things about this game is that not only does Brady go back, and Brady and Belichick and the great history there, I'm interested to see how good New England is. And we're going to find out very early in the season because this is week 4. Then you've got Buffalo at Kansas City, a rematch of the AFC Championship game, Seattle at Pittsburgh, Indianapolis at San Francisco, and then Halloween night with the Dallas Cowboys going to Minnesota. And let's just hope on this Halloween night, nobody in the stands has to wear a mask.
That's right. That would be good. Then we'd be in a really good place for sure. Drew, Thanksgiving in New Orleans. You've played for New Orleans on Thanksgiving, 3-0, and Buffalo's going to be coming down to play the Saints on Thanksgiving night this year.
Yeah, we'll see if that streak can continue. Although Josh Allen and the Bills, I think obviously coming off of their AFC Championship appearance last year, certainly high expectations for them. They continue to add more weapons with Emmanuel Sanders this year, who I had a chance to play with last year. I think he's a special player and still has a lot left in the tank. So I think he'll add another element to already a very explosive Bills offense. I think they're going to have their hands full, though, with that New Orleans defense. I think that's certainly a huge strength for the Saints. And obviously we'll see, I think, how the offense progresses through the year. Obviously, there will be a different quarterback, but at the same time, you do have a lot of great veteran leadership. I think you're looking at 2 explosive offenses. You're looking at 2 very well-coached defenses. So that should be a heck of a matchup.
All right, Drew Brees talking about the Saints offense. Can't wait for that. December is going to be great, all division games. I think the NFC West is loaded. That game in Seattle with San Francisco on week 13, December 5th, just one of them. And, of course, it culminates. We'll all be there in Los Angeles for Super Bowl 56. So the first game and the last game here on NBC, 3 playoff games as well before that Super Bowl. So then you start looking at how things are going to play out during the year, and you see the Packers a couple of times late in the season. Cris, I guess that's the big question. Will you be in Green Bay, or will we be flexing to other games? What's going to happen with the Packers may be off-season story number 1 right now.
You know, it really is. And it started on draft night, and nobody could even get focused in on the draft because of what was going on with Aaron Rodgers. And that whole story breaks. And as you look at it now, my gut feeling is that it's ultimately about money. And Drew maybe can chime in on this one better than I can. But you sign one of those contracts that has all the money lumped in up front, and then you get to those back end years and the money is so greatly reduced. Now you've got the MVP of the league playing for much less even than what he'd been playing for in years prior. So, of course, he's upset. Of course, he wants a different contract. And if the answer comes back, no way, we're giving you anything, that was what you ended up with, who knows? Maybe that's part of the issue. But I'm hopeful that it ends up being about money. But who knows how many bridges have been burned now along the way. And we all know Aaron, right? Aaron has a way sometimes. If somebody kind of gets under his skin, it's hard to right the ship. And so we don't know how that relationship is going to play itself out. But it really would be a shame if the MVP of the league doesn't end up finishing out his career in Green Bay with the Green Bay Packers. But all this started with Jordan Love last year in that draft choice, and who knows where it ends up.
Yeah. Al, when the schedule comes out, I know what you and I look for. We look to see where we're going, right? Where's a good dinner? Where's a good stadium? Where's a good game? Drew, before I ask Al, I'm curious, what did you look for when the schedule came out when you were playing?
We always looked who you're opening up with, right? Whether that was home or away. Then you immediately went to primetime games, started looking at, are we playing on Thanksgiving Day? Are we playing on Christmas Day? And I think we'd also look towards the end of the season, call it late November, December, see if we had any cold weather games, conditions that we might have to deal with. So you immediately start beginning to visualize what the season's going to look like, maybe the tough stretches of the season, just where you might have to gut it out a little bit.
And Buffalo will be in New Orleans, as we mentioned, on Thanksgiving. Now, Al, we went over it briefly because that Brady game back in Foxboro is the top one in October. But to see the AFC Championship game with how well Buffalo played going into Kansas City, into Arrowhead, that's a terrific game that very next week on Sunday Night Football.
Well, we know that Buffalo is the up-and-coming team. They made it all the way to the AFC Championship game last year. You got Allen, a great quarterback. Diggs, of course, the great wideout, and Drew obviously knows plenty about him. That is a team that look, they almost went all the way last year. You could see them coming on. The question I have with that team right now is everybody's expecting them to make that next step. They made a couple of gigantic steps over the prior 2 years, but we've been around long enough to know sometimes, you take those 2 steps forward and then either one step back or tread water. So I'm really curious to see about the Buffalo Bills this year. And, of course, the Bills Mafia. We went into Buffalo last year. We did that playoff game against Baltimore. And Chris and I are sitting there. There are 6,000 people in the stadium that night, and it sounded like 60,000. And I don't think they were piping the sound back in. It was just crazy. Yeah. So looking forward to having Buffalo this year a couple of times, obviously.
You mentioned, Al, the Super Bowl's in Los Angeles. Drew, I'm going to start with you. What do you see the Matthew Stafford fit in L.A. with the Rams and Sean McVay after 12 years in Detroit for Stafford?
You know what? I think this will be a fresh start for Matt Stafford. I think that it's always tough to leave a place, especially when you feel like, you have so much invested and, that I think you visualize that's where you're going to be for your career. And yet I think you sensed Matthew Stafford's frustration in Detroit, not being able to really build that team around him that allowed him to be as successful as I think his talent or where his talent is. I think certainly he has that with the LA Rams. They've got a great defense. He's got a lot of weapons around him. Sean McVay, I think, is as talented an offensive play caller and coach as there is in football. So I think that's going to be a great marriage. I think those guys are going to be extremely tough this year.
And, Drew, I asked you what you look for first. Al looks for L.A., and it's at L.A. 3 times on the schedule, and we haven't even gotten to the Super Bowl. Pretty good, Al.
We also look for hotels, too. You know that, Mike. But for me, I get to stay home at least 4 times this season. And I'm also looking pretty much at what the rate is for mileage these days. It's been so long since I was able to put in for mileage, not having a game in Los Angeles for something like 34 years. And now this plethora of games in L.A. And by the way, the great thing about the Super Bowl in Los Angeles, and Chris and I have been there, but no fans were able to go into that stadium last year. And I hope they can fill it up, because this thing is off the charts. I mean, Dallas is great, Minnesota is terrific, but I think this may be the best stadium in the world. And it's amazing, Mike, what $5 billion will buy for you, but I think it's worth every penny.
And I'm
excited that you guys go ahead, Chris.
Don't think for 1 minute that he wasn't serious about putting in for that mileage either.
I am sure of that. I promise you. Hey, Chris, why don't you get us out of here on this? You see Cleveland on the schedule and what Baker Mayfield has done, and now they've built around him and Myles Garrett on the defensive side of the ball. I see Pittsburgh, and we're not sure what they're going to look like after looking so good last year in the first half of the season. And I mentioned Kansas City and Buffalo. What about Baltimore? This team that has been very much in the conversation, really most of John Harbaugh's time. But now with Lamar Jackson, this is really a year where they're going to have to make that step in a conference that's gotten pretty good over the last couple of years.
Yeah, for me, Baltimore has always been about defense. I think what Wink Martindale has done on the defensive side of the ball has allowed them to basically rotate pass rushers out of the 4th and 5th round, because they're going to send everybody from everywhere. And it's so much fun to watch that defense. So they end up with guys that will have 7 to 10 sacks, go get huge free agent contracts, and then go back to the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round, and the next guy has 7 to 10 sacks. Right. So it's part of the scheme. It's part of the idea that we're going to have great cornerbacks on the back end, and a lot of them, and then we're just going to send the house after you on the front end. Yeah, we have some great offensive players for Baltimore playing on the offensive side, but for me, the stars are what's happening on defense.
And we're going to see that defense take on Kansas City and Cleveland on the Sunday after that Buffalo-New Orleans Thanksgiving game. Guys, we can't wait. Fun to just start talking football on the schedule. Stay well, keep it in the fairway, and we'll see you soon. Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.